Hi, I'm Rosh from Energy Matters. Welcome to our podcast, Road to Zero, where we dive headfirst into all things renewable. Join us as we speak to industry experts, tech specialists, and some of your favorite TV and radio personalities, asking the questions that you want answers to. Our goal is a zero carbon future. This morning, I am absolutely delighted to introduce Tim Sayce, the co-founder of Kai-Konstruct. Hello, Tim.
Hey, how you going, Rosh?
I am very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, going well. Going well.
Very, very good. I think we've stolen some of your weather this morning in Melbourne. It's although it's a bit chilly at 10 degrees this morning. It's beautiful and sunny.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, that's one thing on the Gold Coast for sure is just ideal weather most of the time. Not so much the last year. I think Melbourne weathers and Sydney weathers come up our way, but yeah, it's generally sunny up here for sure.
Look, it's absolutely been a crazy year. We'll certainly be talking about the environment later on in this conversation. But yeah, I mean, like, and certainly we'll be talking about some of the challenges that you've faced as a builder in this industry, given the climate. But Tim, before we get stuck into all of that, I know anyone watching or listening to this today is going to want to know a bit about you. So can you quickly just run us through very briefly, your journey to date in the building industry?
Yeah, so I started as a carpenter apprentice, so that from the tool side of becoming a builder, I worked for a custom home builder as an apprentice and then as a carpenter on their team for 7 years. And that was a great introduction into the industry, I guess, on how to build things really well and in the custom market within Brisbane and the Gold Coast. And then did a bit of a career change. I moved onto the drill rigs, like out in the desert for 3 years. Bit of a change of pace. Did that FIFO work for a bit, had an opportunity there, and then I came back to the industry to be at home more with my wife Lauren, and I stepped into a site supervisor role, and that was a really big eye-opener perspective for me because I worked on the residential custom home environment, moving into the high volume like building side of the residential industry in both a site supervisor role, a construction manager role, and then a project manager role across 3 different companies during the time that I was in that space. So two different sides of the industry. And then over that period, I managed upwards of $80 million worth of residential construction within those roles in the residential sector specifically. So yeah, custom home one side at the start and then moved into like volume, get it built efficiently really well with lots of project teams. So it's a good experience, but at that time I was like, well, I want to start my own building company and sort of blend both models together. I really want well-oiled machine in construction residentially from the larger company's perspective, but bringing back that custom, more refined approach from when I first started as an apprentice and then a carpenter. I just want to bring all those foundation blocks to start Kai-Konstruct and do it that way, head back to the carpentry roots, I suppose.
Fantastic. And Kai-Konstruct, so I think I know the answer, but why Kai-Konstruct?
Kai-Konstruct, I guess, was a starting point for us. Our little boy is called Kai. When Lauren and I found out that we were going to be parents, we thought, well, that was a good start point to really get my butt into gear and start attacking the goals. I would not recommend starting a business and starting a family in the same time period of life. It gets a bit hectic, but we went through it, and we founded Kai-Konstruct in 2017. So Kai is now 6 as of today, which still blows my mind from a time perspective. And then our business focuses generally on large scale renovations and new builds in the custom space.
Mate, fantastic. Talk about putting pressure on the poor lad. Like he's going to get to sort of 15, 16. All right, son, you're taking over the tools. The company's named after you. He's like, Dad, I want to be a chef.
100%. At the end of the day, he can be and do whatever he'd like to be. I'd like him to focus on either being a builder or a developer and improving the industry in some way. But whatever his passion leads to, he is at the point where like us living on a farm and him being in the industry and knowing the team and being on job sites, like we have to hide the keys from the excavator and the bobcat and like those. He knows how to drive all those things. So he's had a great upbringing.
That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. So he's loving it.
Mate, love it. So let's talk about Open Homes Australia. So, we did some filming together last week. I'm very honoured to have you in one of the NG Matters segments on next season's Open Homes, which starts around March, April-ish in 2023. And you'll be showcasing a beautiful home, which we're going to talk about in a second. But first and foremost, why did you choose to get involved in Open Homes Australia? I mean, have you done it before? Was this your first foray into it?
Yeah, so our first introduction to Open Homes Australia was in 2020, like in the midst of everything that was going on. And that was for Mountain Home up at Currumbin at the top of the mountain, which was a beautiful residence. And Carleen doing that episode. And I just felt we got such great feedback really positive feedback of people going, oh, well, you can actually still build in this climate. You can still build something beautiful and it can be considered if you have the right team. And I found it a great way to help people become aware of options and possibilities within constructions and building their own dream home. And the show has a great focus around that in all the different aspects of what can be achieved and showcasing different projects around Australia. And I just personally like being a part of anything that promotes positive growth, impact within the industry. Homes, everybody has to have a home to live in, whether they're renting or living in. So I want to be a part of that change.
Which is absolutely fantastic. And you're so right. I mean, right now, there's probably a lot of nervous people, who are looking to build a property, just given all the horror stories of late around construction companies going bust. And, it'll frighten a lot of people. I mean, they probably just don't know what their options are. So to know that you can actually work with like an independent organization like yourselves and create something way more bespoke and tailored to suit their dreams, their visions, their goals, their forever home is absolutely awesome. Before we delving deeper into the particular property that is going to be featured on Open Homes, I'm just going to play a very little clip. You haven't seen this one yet. This is some behind the scenes footage that I took whilst we were filming. It's a very short clip. The audio is a little bit meh, but check it out.
And also to the rear of the home connecting to the pool area. So we're in between both the buildings. One building master with a beautiful loft facing the nature reserve, and then outside the home there's been a kitchen, including guest bedroom, and another loft facing the master. So it's a great central area, it's very open and very breezy. So
there you go, mate. So that's you doing your thing in front of camera. Look, the audio is a bit crap, so I apologise to anyone who's only got audio only and listening to this. You probably have to turn that up. But mate, you were very good in front of camera. I mean, first and foremost, how did you did you enjoy being in front of camera? I mean, how does that make you feel?
Initially a little bit nervous. I remember last year as well, for sure, because we're great at building. Kai-Konstruct from the start, we've loved to try and document like who we are, the projects, the clients that we've been able to partner with in their projects. So it's had a bit of a slight intro into videography, but TV shows, there's a lot of other stuff that goes on behind the scenes with prep works. But yeah, it was great. The team's great. It was really great hanging out with you on site, Rosh. We had a really good time with Sean and Christiane, the clients as well. And it was a good day all around.
No, look, it was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed filming, mate. And likewise, it's great to hang out with you guys. It was a lot of fun. So look, let's talk about a little bit more about the property that you'll be showcasing on the show. I mean, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this particular home is located in the Gold Coast Hinterland. It's on 1.5 acres. It's a 550 square meter home that's a hybrid off-grid, so quite a large floor area because of the two different lofts that's involved in the design. So when I say hybrid off-grid, it has water tank supply, which is the main source, but it has backup mains water. So it is in a residential area, but they want it to be as self-sufficient as possible. It's got solar panels with a battery backup system that they can use during the day and the evening. And then also if they lose power, they've got backup to their essential services within the home. On-site septic sewage system. So pretty much all the components of, power, water, and septic can all be contained on the property if it needs to be for a duration period of time. And then we've put in home automation, which is Sean's main feature that he wanted in the home, which is great. Manages all the services throughout, has underfloor heating, air conditioning, mechanical ventilation. It's been fully landscaped like that. Every square inch of that block has been addressed in some way or another. and then we renovated the existing pool that was there. So quite a large project. Our team collaborated with the architect PTMA Architecture and the interior designer Hannah & Co Designs over about a 2.5-year design and build period. So it was great working with them both. It was a technical build and process, especially during all the other constraints, but a great result all around.
Mate, that's absolutely fantastic. And it's such a beautiful property to look at. But what I obviously love about it is the technology, is the fact that there's such a high level of sustainability, renewable energy technology throughout, which not only powers the home, but the EV out in the garage, as well as the electric vehicle boat, which is
don't forget the boat.
Mate, that boat was amazing. So I got to have a little ride in it with Sean. Like after the filming, and it was silent. It was like being in a James Bond movie. It was great. A couple of quick things about the actual property itself. I mean, the reason we wanted it to feature as one of the Energy Matters segments wasn't just because of the renewable energy technology, which we're obviously an advocate for, but the fact that particular home had a 9.1 star energy rating, which is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, can you just, and look, obviously without, going into the nuts and the bolts, but what's the starting point to build a 9.1 star energy rated home? I mean, how does that start? How does that happen?
That's, I think that's a bit of a multifaceted, great question. Definitely multifaceted. Like 9.1 stars is definitely something that needs to be thought out at the start of a design. Like, if you're going for that level of energy efficiency, and I'm glad to see the industry sort of shift and change to that direction. The project's focus was, let's make it as energy efficient as possible. But the whole entire idea around the project coinciding in parallel with that is Sean and Christiana, they came to us, obviously being the clients, with the idea around creating a home to encourage others around sustainability. And in line with their focus around being carbon neutral and the lowest impact on the environment being their personal goal for the project. So you couple that with a 9.1 star energy rating. A lot of planning has to go in at the start. It's not only about the beautiful architecture that was designed, but also how does the home perform? And obviously, the energy rated home is like, how much does it take to heat, cool, and run the home in the best way possible? So, without going too far into the nuts and bolts, like there was a 2-year project of building and sometimes designing as we built to try and find the most efficient way of doing it. But you're talking about, double glazed windows, thermally broken walls, the whole entire design of like the roof cavity, the insulation, air gaps between, it's very passive home inspired actually. Like when it comes down to it, a lot of the build method is pulled from the design of a passive home as best as possible to then also meet the architecture. And I think when people talk about passive home and carbon neutral homes, it's great, but we also want them to look nice and not just like a square box, which is the optimum way to build a passive home.
Yeah.
But doesn't necessarily go on the eyes of it all. So that was a fine balance. So finding the starting point of what you want to achieve, what the existing home or a new build can offer within it, and then coupling them together during the design phase is probably one of the, I guess, key points. And then also having a team that gets what you're trying to achieve, like having a building designer or architect that understands what you're trying to achieve, an interior designer that understands, the sustainability impacts of the choices that are being made, a builder that understands the build method to bring both those designs and actually make it happen on site well. Those three people need to work really cohesively to get a great result.
I mean, it sounds incredibly stressful. I mean, because I could just imagine, like there's a quick, efficient, tried and tested way of doing everything that everyone knows will get the job done quickly, with a really good budget. But then there's that's awesome. However, it isn't exactly what we're looking for. We want to reduce the carbon impact. We want to reduce the overall impact in terms of sustainability. So, we want to do it this way. And then it's like, great. Okay. And then faced doubled with that, I mean, you chose possibly the worst set of circumstances in terms of the time to start this build. Obviously, you had no idea what's going to happen. But,
no.
you had COVID, and then just tell us some of the biggest challenges that you face in this project.
I guess one of the biggest challenges was the design started. We're going to renovate the existing home, and I'll talk about the climate and the built environment that happened during a bit after. But we pulled the first gyprock sheet off when the design was getting close to being finalised, and I remember ringing Peter, the architect, going, "Hey, this is like probably the worst termite damage I've ever seen," and we had to like reevaluate how we were going to do the project fully, which is pretty much we had to recycle and demolish the whole entire home back to the slab.
Wow.
Like our team saved the trusses and the fireplace stayed. The fireplace has been there for the whole journey, the original fireplace, but that was the first challenge off the bat where it's like cruising. All right, hang on, let's just wait. We stopped the demo and rejigged how we were going to build on site, like the build construction. The design was fairly set, and then we just worked from that. So that was the first thing on that. But the weather, I mean, where it's located in the hinterland, we had months and months of rain, 2 flooding events, COVID lockdowns and all the rest of it that happened during. Bit of a blessing in disguise, building and designing as we went, although it was quite stressful at times for all parties involved. We were able to build the main structure and the roof and get all the glass in before a lot of that rain, El Nino, started happening towards the start of this year, and also the price increases. So we had a lot of the main structural costs done, and we were just fitting out internally and around the sites before the industry saw those massive impacts on building costs and trade availability and supplier availability. So yeah, there's a few things there. Supply chain and trade availability was definitely the hardest.
I can imagine, and I can only with all those and the sort of goalpost shifting. I mean, they always say when you have your time frame in which you expect to build to start to be complete. But the reality is, as we just saw with what happened, with these set of circumstances, I mean, it's almost impossible, to be able to understand what the budget's going to be when those posts are shifting continuously, and then being able to get hold of supply, and then to obviously have your trades. And fair play to the trades. I mean, at the end of the day, that it's obviously a good place for them to be in. But once again, with the rates constantly changing, As the end, I suppose you're wearing the pressure too, because you've kind of committed to doing something for X amount of dollars, and then when everything's changing around you, I mean, how does that conversation happen to the customer? I mean, I can only imagine from Sean's point of view, it's like, this is getting expensive.
Yeah, I think it surprised everybody in just the cost of construction, but also the time, like the architecture is really beautifully done. Like there's so much glass and open spaces within that home, but as you would have noticed walking around, it's actually really private. So like we enjoyed the finished product, getting through that and understanding, well, hey, this is no longer available now, or now what was spec'd is now over budget by X amount. We either have to, and this is all during we're building a phenomenal rate as well. Like we need to hold on this particular scope here and have a discussion with everybody involved: the architect, interior designer, client, builder, our electrician, the home auto company. Like there are a lot of parties involved, and sometimes it's not the greatest conversation going. This has gone up and we need to change the design to either meet budget, or do we pull back from another area to incorporate it? Like every single project has a budget. That's just a reality. So the budgets just vary in scale. I would say that from the initial standing point of everything that we put in and we worked together on and collaborated with the clients and the architect, we were on point at that point. And then by the time we finished and we incorporated and we realized all together that it was actually important to actually put that back in. It was important to do this now for this particular reason. For the result of the project, it's about open communication. And the great thing working with Sean and Christiana for such a long time, the architect and interior designer, we all understood, like we're all very real about it. And it's about keeping that team and that open communication between all the parties. Construction is difficult at the best of times. an architectural 9.1 Energy Star rating home during COVID, flooding and El Nino and trade supply, there's going to be hiccups. But at the end of the day, it's what's the end result and how do we get there? And is it what everyone was expecting? I think it is. I think everyone's very proud of what's been produced as a team.
No, absolutely. Look, it's absolutely stunning, and I think we'll be chatting to Sean as well in the next week or two just about the actual home itself. So I'll be interested to delve into him and find out, what inspired him to get to where he's got to, which is incredible. But look, if we sort of take a step back now, and more so, or a step up, if you like, and look at the industry on the whole, and just to anyone that's kind of like thinking about, building a property, I mean, I know personally myself and my wife, TJ, we want to, hopefully buy and renovate in the next sort of couple of years and build a property that's, phenomenally sustainable and, being as off-grid as we possibly can get to. Well, I guess key questions that pop up when I have these conversations with other people, and hopefully you can answer a few of them for us. To keep costs down, I mean, how would you go about sort of like, this is the question I want to ask you. So 3 scenarios. What we're trying to do is keep the cost as low as possible. So how would you order these in priority of, yes, best value for dollar, or, oh my God, this is going to cost you a fortune? Would you A, build on an empty block, B, renovate an existing property, which has infrastructure like the sewage and the plumbing, all that sort of stuff, but needs to be bowled over, so it just looks terrible? Or C, would you renovate an existing property which has good bones but needs an extension, a new bathroom, modernization of the kitchen, more bathrooms, and more renovation, more for updating, and another level? So A is a build an empty block, B is renovate an existing property which needs to be bowled over, or C is just to renovate an existing structure but add all the different rooms and the internal renovation as you need. What's cheaper and better, and what's the priority?
It sounds like Rosh's property shopping list for the move.
What?
What? No, it's a great question, and every single person that comes to us each week almost has the same or a very similar adage of question. It's a great one because it all comes down to, well, what is the current block on, and what do you actually want to build or end up with at the end? So I guess renovating an existing property which has infrastructure already sort of ties in with, your third point there. If you're renovating an existing property and it's a 1940s original FC building shack and you want to make it into a high-performing home, I would almost say that recycle the building and build new. And build and use the existing infrastructure and build a home, design a home specific for your family that works. I think there's been a change in the whole entire, people's opinion of, I don't need a 500 square meter home. I'd rather a 300 square meter home that's built really well and serves my family in a great way through design and practical living. Renovate an existing property which has good bones. We've had some great results where the bones and the existing layout of the home is super efficient to change and design and demolish certain areas but keep the main structure. A great example would be like a double brick veneer home on a lower level with a timber frame on the high side of it, really well built thermally. As long as the build method and the construction, the structural integrity is good, which you can find out from a building inspection. Getting your builder chosen and then your building designer on board to help you assess and make that decision and put some cost into renovating an existing property is the first step. Even if you're looking at buying one, and I know the market's been moving extremely fast at the moment, so it's hard to go, hang on, real stage, and I'll just wait for my builder and building designer to come up with a concept. We'll see if it's feasible. I would say, well, if you like the area and the location and you want to investigate renovating the property first before deciding to, hey, we'll just demo it and rebuild it, then that's, a conversation I highly encourage anybody to have a look into, because renovating, you can still get some great results out of it. And more so now, the shift in material costs makes it even more feasible. Whereas before, a couple of years ago, 9 times out of 10, people would knock down and rebuild because the efficiencies were there. But now with the cost of materials, we're rethinking the way that even we build in renovations to, I guess, have a build method the most sustainable way. It's not an easy process all the time. That project at Crumb that we're talking about was probably the most challenging project to date in my career. It helps having a great collaborative design team, that's for sure, and clients who are committed to the outcome of the project. But that's what you want to have going into any project, is a very clear idea of what this property needs to do or serve for you as a family or as a couple or an individual, and then work back from that. What's the energy rating you want to achieve? What are the main things that you want to have in your home that are important to you personally? Is it a long-term hold? Is it a 2 or 3 year flip? And that'll really depend on how much capital or budget you have for the property. So there's a few factors. Like Lauren and I have done a fair share of property development and building for clients, and we understand there's lots of challenges around that as well. So I would say if the home isn't suiting the layout, build on an empty block. If you find the location, land's really hard to find sometimes in the place where you want to live, find the right block. If the home isn't suiting it, demolish it, recycle it. Like when we demolish a home, everyone's like, it's going to landfill. Well, no, we'll recycle up to 85% of it and reuse what we can. And that often has a lot less impact than what people are first thinking when it comes to scrapping a home and viewing it sustainably.
Which is absolutely fantastic. And that's one of the key points we raised in the show about the fact that you do recycle up to 85% of building waste. I mean, that's phenomenal. And anyone watching this in the industry should, in the construction industry, should obviously pay attention, because if you're not doing that, I mean, you've really set the bar, which is fantastic, right? And it moves us obviously in the right direction. So good work, mate. You're welcome, Tim. You're welcome. Hey, what would you say then are the biggest? Obviously, there's been a number of, as I mentioned earlier, a number of construction companies going under recently. I mean, they're the ones that hit the press. I know there's a whole multitude of reasons for that, which we never really get to find out. But what would you say are the biggest challenges facing builders today?
I think for builders and the industry as a whole is everyone sort of needs to realize that as a builder, we are sort of like the conductor of the symphony. Like we're trying to put all these people together and create a beautiful project at the end, which is often out of even sometimes the suppliers and subcontractors' control. So the biggest challenges that are facing a builder is project management, building efficiently and fast, which doesn't mean that you have to drop quality. It just means the processes of how building companies run really needs to have a spotlight put on it. The biggest challenges as well is cash flow for builders. Is when a building slows down, that general turnover, just like with any business, it suffers on that part. So builders try and take on more work in a congested industry, and it just hasn't panned out, especially the bigger commercial builders, which is unfortunate because I'm sure they're all trying to do as best as they can in the industry. Some of those builders started a project 3 or 4 years ago, committed to a price, and things moved, upwards of 30% across the board. Now, no one can sustain that sort of rate in material prices, which is why I think having good communication with builders, clients, and the design team of how you can work together, it needs to be a little bit more collaborative and very open communication around how a project can be delivered. There's been a lot of doom and gloom and a lot of builders suffering from industry factors that are often outside of everybody's control. But there is also positives within the industry of people working together and finding solutions and still making projects not only feasible but successful and getting built and handed over. And unfortunately, you don't hear a lot of those positive results because everyone likes to focus sometimes on the negative. But it shouldn't discourage people on being able to build their family home that they're wanting to, and not put it on the brakes for another 3 or 4 years and see what happens. There is still great outcomes to be had, but builders need to focus on having a great trade base, great communication with clients and all stakeholders involved, and having a good team. Like one thing for us that has really helped us during a difficult time, and no one's immune to it, is literally having a really good project team. Like in-house, like within Kai-Konstruct. So for me, that is my brother on site supervisor. He was on that project almost 100% of the time, just trying to keep all the plates spinning, so to speak, and make that happen. Our carpentry team is all in-house, so we didn't have supply carpentry issues. All those guys have a lot of experience. We vetted them a lot, and we have in-house office operations that kept track of everything during that project and the schedule of the project. Plan, 100%. Like there was 70 subcontractors and over 100 suppliers involved Australia-wide for that project that we were both like looking at the other week. That's on Open Homes. So I think, focusing on business skills for builders helps a lot in an industry where there's new challenges that older companies haven't really seen before.
Absolutely fantastic. And that's, once again, really, really reassuring for anyone outside looking in to look at your business thinking, who am I going to pick as a builder? To know that you do have such an expansive team internally, almost like the brains trust, that keeps the cogs moving. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's rare, but at the same token, you've done it in such a great way, whereas everything that's going on, in terms of every aspect of the build, and you have that sort of reassurance, and that trust that you have the team has your back and vice versa. I mean, which gives you that confidence when you go into these sorts of projects, because like no one can do everything, right? And we all will, even in my industry, we have a very good understanding of a lot of things, but there's only specific things we're experts in, and you need to have a really great crew around you to be able to fill the gaps. And clearly that's what you have inside your team, and especially the ones I've met. But obviously knowing and from what you've just explained and around the rest of your team, including your bro, it's awesome. So that gives everyone a lot of confidence if they're looking at you as a builder. Just a couple other things before we finish up. Really, one of the things I did really pick in the conversation that we've just been having, as well as obviously being in that property. Yes, it's a really, really large property, so it's a slightly different at this point. But with the push.
Sorry, the phone's running hot, Rosh.
All right. People are now watching this thinking, hang on a second, we want you to build our property. You heard it here live, people.
Gotta apologise. Just it happens all the time. Sorry, Rosh.
That's fine. I'm glad someone's calling you in. This should be like a talk show where they can call in. Call in now if you want to speak to Tim. And we'll see. And we'll see if he can quote you on the spot for your new build. So, Tim, with the push towards passive design and net zero homes, do you expect to see the installation of smaller solar systems in the future?
I would say solar technology has gone so far the last 5 years. When we have been incorporated into builds, it's just astronomical. I think, and that project is testament to what can actually be achieved in not really a too large a system for the size of home in comparison. I think the ratio of what's within the home and the services that people want to power compared to the size of the solar system now with battery backup systems and efficient ways to run the home and on different time periods, I think there would definitely be a good push, and there already is massive change in some large even scale building companies incorporating solar and backup batteries as part of their package. So if you look at just that side of the residential industry and looking at that seriously, that's a really great shift into what can be achieved, which is now actually affordable in a way. Like that technology is still emerging, and I guess geeking out a little bit on what's actually available with solar and backup batteries and how they can be integrated since starting this project as well. Has shone more light on that. That we're going to have to do it as a country is to try and make homes more sustainable from a resource perspective, whether it's power, water, those two components as the population grows. I think the federal government said they want to build 1 million homes starting in 2025. Like that's an astronomical amount of grid load on an already, fairly stretched energy grid that we have. So I think it would almost be made to a point where some component of that is standard or mandatory as part of building within Australia. And I think it is a great actual starting point to incorporate that, like they've done with the water tanks and other components within the home, of raising the energy base rating standard within homes.
No, fantastic, mate. Thank you very much. Well, look, Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on on our podcast, and obviously filming with you was a lot of fun. I can't wait for next year for the episode to come out. So I think it's going to be around the open home should sort of kick off on Nine Life around March, April of 2023. And look, obviously this property is amazing, so it wouldn't surprise me if the guys open the show with this particular property. We'll see. I can't make any promises, but mate, thank you so much for being on the show. And look, great to meet you. And I can't wait to see what you come up with next.
Oh, looking forward to it, Rosh. Thanks for the time,
mate. You're very, very welcome. So, guys, thank you for watching and or listening to us today. Before we finish, do remember that you can get 3 free solar quotes by visiting our website. So please feel free to jump on, check out the Energy Matters website. And if you haven't gone solar power as yet, put through an inquiry. Likewise, if you have got a solar power system on your roof already, but you're looking to incorporate a battery and or an EV charger, jump on and submit that inquiry. We're working with over 200 solar power installers across the country, so hopefully we will have someone in your local area who can assist you. Please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We will be publishing some more content about Tim in the very near future, so keep an eye on those different social media channels or our website to read more about Kai-Konstruct. And if you want to speak to Tim and you don't have his details, feel free to contact us, and I'll certainly make sure we connect you. For now, have a fantastic rest of the day, and we look forward to seeing you next week. All the best.